And sometimes it's easier to recognize another family's culture as opposed to yours. So don't think that just because you can recognize somebody else very easily, that your family does not have a family culture. It actually really does.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
Before we get into the full details of today's episode, and you might be wondering, how does this really fit with my homeschool and family culture? That is what we're going to talk about, because of course, everything here has to relate to homeschool at some point, because that is our lifestyle. It's how we live. But I wanted to put a little bug in your ear. Is that the saying? I think so. But I wanted to mention to you, the final Teach Them Diligently convention is happening here in 2 months. July 31st through August 2nd at Liberty University in Virginia. I am going to be speaking again there, and I'm really excited to travel on down. I haven't been to Liberty in a very long time. I did not attend that school, but I remember visiting, I think, at some point many years ago. But would love to be able to see you there. It is a great time to be encouraged in your Christian faith as well as in your homeschooling of your kids. Your entire family is invited, so don't feel like you have to leave them at home. But if you want to come and take a solo trip, you can do that as well. I remember doing both things when it came to conventions years ago. Bring the family sometimes, and sometimes I was like, I just want to go and do this all by myself. You can get some details with the link in the show notes. But again, it'll be July 31st through August 2nd at Liberty University in Virginia. So there's only 2 months until then. So get some details. I would love for you to attend just in general, to just be encouraged. Nobody ever walks away from taking the time and the budget to attend a convention saying, that wasn't worth my time. Everybody walks away saying, I am so glad that I went. So in general, would love for you to come just so that you can be encouraged in your homeschooling, but also secretly, not so secretly, I would love to be able to meet you. So if you do plan on attending, please make sure that you find me and come and say hello. But today, let's talk about what is a family culture and how does it influence your homeschool. I never thought about this term. I don't even know if I ever put together family and culture, put those 2 words together for it to actually mean something. I don't know if anybody was at that time when my kids were younger, but today's topic was definitely not something that I thought about for many years. Now, looking back, yes, my family had a culture. I didn't really think to analyze it and didn't really think that it played much of a part in the way that we homeschooled, and it really does, actually. Sometimes our family cultures can be really obvious at the time, and sometimes they can be really obvious in hindsight, and sometimes it's easier to recognize another family's culture as opposed to yours. So don't think that just because you can recognize somebody else very easily, that your family does not have a family culture. It actually really does. First, I think that family culture begins with a husband and wife. I remember when James and I got married, and you would hear the term of family. And I look back now, and it was a little silly of me to think that he and I together, I was like, we're just a couple. We're not a family because we don't have any children. So we had one child, and I was like, are we considered a family now? I'm not quite sure. Another one. And I was like, okay, we have 2 kids. I feel like we are a family now. It was such a silly, immature kind of way to think, but just a husband and wife, you are a family. And you're creating your own culture together. And then you have children, and we really should define what our family culture is. Sometimes it can look different when you begin to have children, and sometimes there's some of it that stays the same, and sometimes families, it stays completely the same. Parents will say, no, this is the way that we are living, this is what we enjoy, and we're just going to add kids to it. There is no right or wrong. However, I really think it's important for us to do some adjusting as our kids become older, especially as our children enter the teen years. So for homeschooling, we might want to say the high school years. As they are preparing to launch out, we should allow them more and more say, but also recognize the way that they are wired and their interests. And it's okay for our family culture to adjust. I really think that it should adjust for the high school years, and I'm going to get into a little bit more at the end of this episode what that can look like. So it is not something that has to be set in stone. It can definitely be something that grows and changes as you grow and mature, and as your children grow and mature as well. Let's start off with a definition. What is family culture? I found this definition at themomentsathome.com. I want to make sure that I give credit to them. And they defined, because I was like, why come up with something on my own when there is this really great definition of family culture? So family culture, as they define it, is the combination of your family's habits, traditions, purpose, values, beliefs, and choices. It is often impacted by experiences, personalities, and external influences. All right, let's go through that list again. So it's a combination of your family's habits, probably right off the top of your head, you probably thought of some habits, your traditions, which might be traditions that have been passed down to you or that your husband and you or your family have created, your purpose, your values, your beliefs, and choices. And so those things are impacted by your experiences. You come into marriage with you having your own experiences in life and your husband having his own experiences in life. You then come together, you join, you are a family, and yes, you still have individual experiences, but you are running those individual experiences through the filter of now we are a family, we are married, and you are telling him about your experiences. So say when you first get married, you're both working outside or inside the home and you have interactions with others and things that are going on, just in general, even as a homeschool mom. You're telling him about your day. You're telling him about things. So it's not just you insulated going through these experiences. And so our family culture is impacted by the experiences that we had prior to marriage, as well as within marriage and within marriage with children. It's also impacted by our personalities. And I think this is a really big one. You can have a couple that's pretty quiet, or they might be a little bit more studious, or you might have a couple that's just a little bit more rowdy and vocal, and they like to get out and do things and are big with life. There's nothing wrong or even right. Doesn't mean you have to have one or the other. It could be a mix of those. But also external influences, things that have influenced us. So I think some of this can overlap with the experiences as far as our upbringing, the way that our childhood was, our parents, our relationship with them and with siblings, and the way that we were schooled and educated and discipled, and whether we grew up in the church or not within the church. But then there's external influences also. Maybe where you live. Maybe it's the co-op that you go to. Maybe it's the church that you are attending. Maybe it's just from previous jobs. There's a lot of different things that can go into that. So I want you to get a pen and paper. I know I say this often during the episode, but I really do want you to get a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil. Maybe you've found a crayon somewhere that's there. Make sure it's, got some sharpness to it so you can write down some questions, because I want to encourage you to go through these questions. Maybe go through them on your own. Give these to your husband. Let him go through these on his own. Now, I know not all husbands are open to that. Mine would be like, why can't we just do it together? I don't want to write these down. Like, we could just talk it through. That's fine. Again, marriages and personalities are going to be different. So here are a couple different options. You can write down your answers to these questions. He can write down his answers to these questions, and you can come together and talk about it. Or you can write down the answers, and then together you can do his answers and talk about it. Or you can both just work together on it and answer the questions together. It's up to you how you want to approach this, but I highly recommend that you write these down, and then you can include your kids. Now, if your kids are all super young and not really able to process this, then that might be a waste of time. You would use the time to observe them and see how maybe the way that they act and react would then influence your family culture. But maybe your kids are a little bit older and you want to pull them into it. Or you might say, you know what? This is something that we're setting, they're not going to get much of a say right now, but again, as they get older, allow them a formal or informal say. So a formal say would be asking them all or some of these questions, or just having the conversation with your husband and bringing up some of those things to your teenager, or just observing them just like you would if they were younger and saying, how can we adjust our family culture for what I'm seeing in them and the way that they are wanting to live? And this can go into, maybe your family culture is just a lot more introverted, but you're sensing, well, you see, probably beyond even sensing, you see that you have a teenager that is very much an extrovert and wants to live life a little bit bigger and louder. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That means then that you take the time and maybe your family becomes more extroverted. So here are your questions. Question number 1 is, what do you enjoy? Write down the things that you individually enjoy, the things that you enjoy as a family doing. This should be pretty easy to do, right? Think about the things that you like to do. Do you like to read? Do you like to hike? Do you like to work out? Do you like to do sports? Do you like to camp? There's so many different things that you can come up with that you enjoy doing. Let's look at the opposite of that. And question number 2 is, what don't you enjoy? I might have just listed a couple of things and you might say, yes, I enjoy those. Oh no, I do not enjoy that. It's okay to admit that you don't enjoy things. Growing up, my family did a lot of camping, and when I was younger, I really enjoyed it. Now, this might go against what homeschoolers are supposed to say they enjoy, but me in a tent camping, I don't enjoy it. Would I do it for my family? Yes. But I would rather stay at an Airbnb and have a full kitchen and us be able to cook, or go out to dinner and, listen, give me like a bougie campground and I might be okay. And for many years, I felt embarrassed to say that because so many of my friends and my friends' families enjoyed camping. Listen, I'm a glamping kind of girl, but also I'm not too high strung. Like I don't need it to be too crazy. I don't need to get a manicure and pedicure at my campground, but I'm just like, give me maybe some air conditioning and like something that, mosquitoes aren't going to eat me, and somewhere that I can put my food that bears aren't going to get it, and that could be okay. But admit what you don't enjoy. That's all right. That helps make you who you are. Question number 3, what do you prioritize? What do you prioritize doing? Probably education and the schooling of your children, the discipleship of your children. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe you prioritize outdoor activities. Maybe you prioritize sports, family meals together, cooking together, spending time with extended family, having friends over. It doesn't matter what it is. Just write down, what do you prioritize? Question number 4 is, what won't you do? So it's not even just a what don't you enjoy. What won't you do? And this can be informed by your faith, by your beliefs, and that's okay to use that. I actually highly recommend to write those things down. What won't you do? And it's okay if there is something that you say, we won't do this, but you know of other homeschoolers who actually do that. Let's not use the secondary and tertiary things that we come up with in faith to divide us. Just hope and pray that all the other people that you know are being intentional. I think when we are being intentional, then God will give us clearness on our objectives and how we spend our time and the things we will do and the things that we won't do. Okay, question number 5 is, what rituals or traditions do you all embrace and anticipate eagerly? Now, that word ritual, sometimes people will get like, oh, I don't know, like a satanic ritual? Absolutely not. That's not what we're talking about. Rituals are just things that maybe you might do every day. So it could be something silly, like what rituals do you do in the morning as far as getting ready? One of your rituals might be that you get up and your kids get up a little bit later, you kind of get some breakfast and coffee, and you sit outside on the back porch, and a part of that ritual is that they come sneaking out and curl up onto your lap, or they bring their books out in a blanket and sit and cuddle up. That's just a ritual. Traditions are something that is typically a little bit bigger, something that is focused on maybe specific days, holidays, or special days for your family, birthdays. Or it could be even something like a weekly tradition that maybe your extended family all gets together at grandma and grandpa's house. I see that with a lot of families, is that they will get together at grandma and grandpa's house for dinner on Sunday night or something like that. But what rituals or traditions do you all embrace and anticipate eagerly? So basically the ones that you like to do. Sometimes there's traditions that go along with extended family that we're like, well, I guess we have to do this. But for your exact family, we're talking about, what do you guys want to do? The next question is, how do you make hard choices? So think about you and your husband. When there is a decision to be made, how do you make that? What do you use to make those decisions? Next question is, what are the values that matter most to your family? So think about the things that you value. What is it that's really important to you? And you might start to come up with specific words. They might be linked to the fruit of the Spirit or character traits. Next question. This one's a fun and a little bit easier kind of one. I feel like I took you like way down to the deep end. Let's pull out a little bit. How do you like to spend your days? Could be things like you like to spend your days reading or hiking, sports, cooking, playing games, working outside. How does your family like to spend your days? Not always the things that you have to do, but how do you like to spend them? And the biggest question is what you believe about things. In other words, where is your foundation of truth? What you and your husband believe will shape how you spend your time, how you spend your money, how you use your home, how you will use your resources, and also for how you will educate your children. So what is your foundation of truth? For my family, that foundation of truth is God's Word, the Bible. It is God, the Father, Jesus, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so that is our foundation of truth. Is that your foundation of truth? And when we look at that foundation of truth, it is going to shape all of the decisions. And in relation to homeschool, it will and it should affect how you educate your children. So let's briefly, now that you have those questions and you've got your marching orders, you know what you're going to go and do, let's talk a little bit about how these can be adjusted to a new season of life. That new season of life could be that maybe your children right now are really young and they get to the point where they don't quite need you as much, and you guys can go and have fun, and there isn't the diapers and the sippy cups and all of those things, and you get to a new season in life. But then, as I talked about in the very beginning of this episode, it could be when your kids are older and they're teens and they're young adults, and you're saying, well, I want them to still be a part of our family, and how do we need to adjust our family culture? So let's go back to some of these questions and see how can we adjust that. So again, the questions. What do you enjoy? What don't you enjoy? Maybe when your kids are little, some of the things you might enjoy is being home and having quiet days. But then you realize as your kids and your teens get older, they want to get out there, they might want to go and do things, or they might be obligated to go out and to do things, and you try to meet them where they are at. Things like, what do you prioritize? When my kids were little, I prioritized family time and us being home and having quieter days. I still prioritize that for me, and I try to offer that for my kids, but I have to recognize now in this season of life, my priority needs to be able to meet them where they are at, and their lives are full and their lives are exciting, as the season that they are in right now is getting ready to launch and to do things, and sometimes coming back home and wanting to really find their place in the world. And so anyway, you can go through all these questions. I don't want to keep this episode too long, but I would just recommend that you really think about your kids and where they are in different seasons, especially as they get older, and how can you meet them in that new season, and how can you adjust your family? Maybe part of your family culture has been that you always spend Christmas Eve at grandma and grandpa's house. And that worked fine when the kids were little. I remember for Christmas, we would do Christmas Eve with James's family and then Christmas Day with my family. And it was a lot because guess what? My family didn't live close by. We would have to then travel a few hours to see them. So it would be up late Christmas Eve and then getting up that next day. And eventually I had to say, you know what? This isn't a tradition that we can any longer participate in. It's just getting to be too much. And it was too much when they were younger. I wish that I had kind of spoken up a little bit sooner and been like, we need to come up with our own tradition. We need to come up with what's going to be best for our family. And so in relation to, say, Sunday evenings, maybe that doesn't work as your kids get older and they have jobs. And maybe it's like, well, we will try to get to the extended family gathering every other Sunday. So just adjusting for your family, because when we come so legalistic and so staunch, and this is how we're doing it, and we always do this, it can really start to begin to push our kids away. And we need to recognize the season they're in and be excited for that season. But I'm excited about this topic of family culture. I hope that this episode has given you some things to talk about with your husband and a way to then look at family culture, because it does affect how we homeschool. It affects how you will spend your time, what curriculum you're going to get, what activities you're going to get involved in. Are you going to do a co-op? What are you going to focus on? There's just so many different aspects of it. I do send out an email on Tuesdays called 2-Tip Tuesday. If you would like that to jump into your inbox on Tuesday, just to give you 2 simple tips that have to do with homeschool and that season of the year and just overall, I would love to be able to pop into your email inbox, and you can get that link in the show notes and join the 2-Tip Tuesday email list. Would love to be able to see you there. All right. Also, would love to see you at Teach 'em Diligently in Virginia. Check out the link in the show notes.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.